Welcome to the Shelterbox Canada Advocate Training. In this training, we'll cover everything that you need to know to become a volunteer with Shelterbox. So let's begin.
At Shelterbox, we believe every family has a right to shelter after disaster. We believe that with the right tools and training, communities can work together to lead recovery. We believe that with your help, we can build a world where no family is left without shelter. When natural disasters devastate communities or conflict forces families to flee, shelter gives people a place to call home. But what makes a home? Is it a roof with brick walls? Or is it the people we love and the comfort of a little shade? Home is a location, but it could be anywhere that family, friends, and community come together. It can be a place made of simple pieces, like a spot to play, a light to read by, or a soft place to lay your head. Together, these items provide a sense of security and comfort, but also hope for the days to come. Shelterbox gives families across the globe a place to call home. We do this by working with some of the most vulnerable and hard-to-reach communities around the world. Every disaster is different, and so are the needs of every community. That's why we work directly with families to understand their needs and provide the support they need most to start their own recovery. By uniting with partners like Rotary International, by working with volunteers, and by inspiring supporters to share their passion, we are able to provide shelter and essential items, working alongside families to support their recovery. At Shelterbox, we see a future where no family is left without shelter after disaster or conflict. Join us today and stand with people who care about the global community and who are acting to make a difference. Give families around the world a place to call home.
That video shows Shelterbox in action, delivering aid around the world to families recovering after disaster. Now let's chat about who we are as an organization. Shelterbox is an organization made up of people who believe in shelter as a human right, that shelter from the chaos of disaster and conflict is vital for recovery. We are an international disaster relief charity that hand delivers emergency shelter and the tools families need to self-recover after natural disasters and conflict around the world. Our vision is to see a world where no family is without shelter after disaster. Over the past 20 years, we have helped to rebuild the lives of more than 1.5 million people worldwide, but the global need for shelter is growing. Today, in 2020, the need for emergency shelter is more urgent than ever, with 88 million people living without shelter after disaster. On average, only 1 in 5 families receive the emergency shelter that they need after disaster. We are working to change this, and you are a critical part of our movement. Recovery starts with shelter. Shelter means a place to feel safe, often after days or weeks of fear. It means having somewhere to call home again, where you can find shade from the midday sun and warmth when winter comes. It means having somewhere to be with friends and family and to have time to yourself. It's a place to cook, to play, to study, to laugh. It's a place to start again. When natural disasters and conflict force people from their homes, we can't replace what a family has lost, but we can help to rebuild. We provide people with the tools to start the process of their own recovery. In 2000, the idea for Shelterbox was created by the Rotary Club of Helston Lizard in Cornwall, United Kingdom. This happened when Rotary International encouraged members to come up with projects to mark the millennium. Shelterbox was launched as a project by the club that same year to help families after disaster. The initial idea was to pack up the tools and things people needed to recover after disaster. Initially, the idea was to support 8 to 10 families a year, with each box containing a family-sized tent, sleeping bags, water purifying tablets, trenching tools, and pots and pans. A year later, we sent our first batch of hand-packed shelter boxes to India after the 2001 earthquakes. 20 years later, Shelterbox has become a humanitarian leader in disaster relief, supporting 1.5 million people since the year 2000. Shelterbox Canada is a registered charity that has been a part of the global Shelterbox network since 2010. We are one of 15 affiliate Shelterbox offices globally, and our Canadian office is located in Toronto, Ontario. Our Canadian team is responsible for raising funds and awareness. We have a team of over 125 volunteers across the country who share their passion with us and help us raise awareness and fundraise all across the country. Shelterbox Canada is funded by public donations from Canadian individuals, companies, groups, Rotarians, and Rotary clubs. We do not receive government funding, and we rely on your support to help us ensure no family goes without shelter when disaster strikes. We pre-position aid around the world so that our teams can respond immediately following a disaster. Donations allow us to be prepared to respond immediately whenever families need our help. To be as effective as possible in providing immediate help to families, we do not accept donations designated to a specific country or disaster. The way we work means we are prepared for immediate response. Donations received before a disaster will often be those that are used to respond to it. Donations stimulated because of a disaster may be used to prepare for the next one. Each disaster is different, and so is every community. This is why we have a flexible approach. We listen and learn from the communities we work alongside to provide them with the right tools to recover. Let's take a look at some of our aid. Our sturdy green shelter boxes contain family-sized tents, specially designed to withstand the elements and provide people with temporary shelter until they are able to start the process of rebuilding a home. Tents allow families to live as comfortably as possible and meet their basic needs: eating together, praying together, simply being together in a private space that they can call home. The geodesic family tent is our most used tent and has been developed by humanitarian experts including the International Federation of the Red Cross and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. The tents are made of well-proven, durable humanitarian tarpaulin to help make families feel safe and protected from the weather. The tent can withstand up to 100 km/h winds and can stay dry in up to 6 inches of standing water. The exterior shell shields UV lights and is ventilated to stay cool in hot climates. The tent can also be winterized to keep families warm in cold weather. Shelterbox listens carefully to those who receive our aid. One of the things we hear from people who have survived a disaster is that they want to rebuild their homes and livelihoods as soon as possible. In the wake of disaster, families can use the contents of a shelter kit to make immediate repairs to their damaged homes. We customize the contents of the kit to meet the individual needs of each community we help. Sometimes they include corrugated iron to help make resistant roofing, as well as items like tarpaulin and timber. We always provide training in the field to help families understand how to use their new equipment. The basic shelter kit can be supplemented with locally procured items to meet the needs of every culture and to support local economies. After we have decided if we are going to distribute a tent or a shelter kit, we then know whether we will send a shelter box or a totem box. We know that a home is much more than bricks and mortar or tarpaulin and tent pegs. Our kits and boxes contain the items that help families transform shelter into a home, like cooking sets, mosquito nets, water filters, solar lights, blankets, and ground sheets. We use our signature shelter box when we are delivering larger aid items such as tents, thermal blankets, ground sheets, or cooking sets. We use a smaller totem box when we are delivering only smaller aid items such as solar lights, water filters, or mosquito nets. Everything we do is guided by the same goal: helping families rebuild after disaster. To make sure we do that as effectively as possible, we constantly question what we do. We explore what we could do differently. We ask ourselves how we could do better. We put innovation at the heart of our work, always searching for ways to improve. It's why we no longer provide aid only in boxes, after families told us they sometimes need larger emergency items that don't fit in our shelter boxes. It's why we changed the blankets we send to disaster zones after families told us the original ones weren't warm enough on the coldest nights. It's why we recently started using more durable tents after families said they needed somewhere more secure to feel settled and ready to face the future. It's why we worked with the company that makes our solar-powered lights after families told us the batteries used to run out too quickly. Luminade solar lights have evolved to meet the needs of families recovering after disaster. From lights that used to last only 14 to 16 hours on a charge to lights that can now last 44 to 50 hours. The Luminade is a powerful item for families to stay safe and recover. The lights transitioned from pillow to cube shape as the cube is easier to place on a tabletop. Adding adjustable handles makes it easier to hang the lantern in a shelter box tent or to hang on your clothing to bring the light with you. The newest 2-in-1 model also doubles as a portable solar phone charger. Phones are often an important survival tool and allow families to stay connected. By listening to people in every disaster where we work, we make sure people are in the best possible position to start strong as they piece their lives back together. Water, just like shelter, is a human right. When disasters devastate whole communities and force families far from home, it can be hard to ensure access to clean water. The water purification systems we have used have changed over time, from first providing water purification tablets to now using water filters. The filters can remove viruses, bacteria, and pathogens that can be found within contaminated water, as well as chemicals, heavy metals, and fecal matter. A water filter can turn up to 1,000 liters of unsafe water into clean drinking water. That's enough clean water for a family of 4 for a month. We have used several variations of water filters over the past 20 years. What led us to start using our current water filter is that it has a fail-safe that will stop dispensing water when it is no longer filtering at 100% clean. Once Shelterbox teams leave, we know that our aid will guarantee that families have safe, clean water. Meet Marimu. 33-year-old Marimu lives in a refugee camp with her 7 children. Her husband left without any explanation just after they were settled in the family shelter. Originally from Nigeria, Marimu had to leave her village after it was attacked. Marimu explained, "It is an experience that I would not wish on anybody. It was like a horror film, which makes me cry every time I think about it. One day you have everything, the next day you lose everything within a few minutes." Like many refugees, the most difficult situation that Marimu faces daily is that of access to water. She explained, "The most difficult thing is to have water. We must get up very early and go a very long way. It can take a whole day to get only 30 liters of water." Dirty drinking water is also an issue. We started to get sick. After a while, I noticed that my children and I were having frequent stomach aches and diarrhea. I realized it was caused by the water. After receiving a Shelterbox water filter, Marimu cannot contain her joy at the impact that it has had on her family. Thanks to the filter, I can assure you that our problems concerning water are no longer related to sickness, but to distance, because we still have to travel a long way to collect it. Today, we drink water without fear. Even though the distance is the same with all the difficulties that we have when fetching water, we are now spared from sickness. I use the filter without difficulty as it's very simple to use. The only thing we can say is thank you very much to Shelterbox. This is the impact that aid has on the lives of families recovering after disaster. Stories like Marimu's are the reason we do what we do. Now let's take a look at how we do it. We do whatever it takes to reach the most remote communities that have been devastated by disaster. Shelterbox is constantly monitoring disasters around the world as they are happening. Sometimes our operations team can make the decision from Shelterbox HQ whether a Shelterbox response is appropriate based on the news and reporting from humanitarian organizations. However, sometimes it's too difficult to make these decisions from afar. In these circumstances, an assessment team will travel to affected areas to do assessments in country. They will meet with local organizations as well as Rotary contacts. Our team conducts in-depth assessments to see if the situation meets our decision to respond criteria. With your help, Shelterbox gives communities the shelter and supplies they need to transform their lives. Unfortunately, the need is ever growing and we aren't able to help everyone. That is why we have our decision to respond criteria, which helps us make the tough decisions and prioritize the most vulnerable families around the world who otherwise wouldn't receive assistance. We use these criteria to help us decide whether a Shelterbox response is appropriate based on the need, what aid we can offer, and if we have the available resources. We also recognize that in some cases we are not the best suited to help, and these questions help us ensure that we are reaching families and communities with whom Shelterbox Aid will provide what they need when they need it. We use the following questions to help decide whether a Shelterbox response is appropriate. Government response. Has the local government declared a state of emergency and/or asked for international assistance? The local government has to be the primary responder. If government resources are overwhelmed, then Shelterbox will look at responding, as long as we have permission to work there. Number of families needing help. Will at least 200 families need our aid? Our experience shows in most cases when the number of people who have lost their homes is under 200, most needs can be met through local organizations or through family support systems, for example, staying with relatives. We prioritize responses where we can reach families who would not otherwise have shelter available. Type of aid. Is our aid appropriate? We look carefully at whether the aid we can provide will meet families' needs, both culturally and contextually. We have a range of shelter options which makes our aid adaptable to many situations, but they won't always be needed. We have a flexible approach to our aid and we work hard to understand what families need across different situations. Whilst emergency shelter is at the heart of Shelterbox, we also provide other essential items that can help to restore a sense of normality for families living through disasters. We will only respond if what we can offer will best support families who receive our aid so that they can recover. Length of time support will be needed. Will shelter aid be required for at least 1 month? Schools and community centres are often better built to withstand disasters and are then used as temporary evacuation centres. While not always ideal, these can meet shelter needs for a short period of time. Our teams prioritize responses where the need for shelter goes beyond the capacity or availability of evacuation centres. Speed of self-recovery. Do people have the resources to recover themselves? Our operations team also takes into consideration factors like average income, availability of building materials, resilience of infrastructure like hospitals and roads, insurance, government compensation, and other factors which will help us determine whether people will be able to recover themselves. Our responses will focus on areas in which people have limited ability to self-recover without assistance. Local capacity. We strive to provide aid to families who would not otherwise receive support. We work with partners and community organizations to understand the local need and capacity. While a situation may look severe in some cases, local organizations and agencies are able to meet the needs without outside aid. Shelterbox responds when there is a need that won't be met otherwise. Shelterbox resources. Do we have the resources needed for a duration of a response? We carefully look at whether we have the people, finances, and aid needed before responding. We make sure that every family and community we work with gets the full support they need, so we only respond when we have the resources to see the full response through. Safety. Can we safely respond? At Shelterbox, we take the safety of our teams, our partners, and our beneficiaries seriously. We are experienced in working in lots of different and extreme situations around the world. We work hard to understand the risks involved and the resources we will need to help local families and ensure that our responses can be carried out safely. Sphere standards. Do the vulnerabilities of the families who need help fall within Sphere definitions? The Sphere Handbook is one of the most widely known and internationally recognized set of standards for humanitarian response. It outlines vulnerability criteria and response standards to ensure that humanitarian organizations are not causing harm, even if well-meaning. Shelterbox uses these to help identify within the emergency who needs support the most, and adheres to all standards outlined. Global Development Index Rating. What is the affected country's index rating? We will always work hard to prioritize and help the most vulnerable families in an emergency. When disasters happen across multiple countries and we have difficult decisions to make about where to respond, we will use additional criteria as outlined by Inform Global Risk Index and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's list of countries eligible for official development assistance to ensure we are helping those most in need. Speed and efficiency. Where will our aid have the greatest impact for families affected by disaster? This is additional criteria which we use when we have budget restrictions or multiple countries are affected at the same time, such as Hurricane Irma in the Caribbean. When we can't be everywhere, we focus on areas that our aid will have the biggest impact on families who need it the most. Once we know if we are responding, aid gets prepared to be shipped to country. We store aid in strategic locations around the world so we can get it to families as quickly as possible. Shelterbox has a network of response team volunteers around the world. When we are responding to a disaster, a team is carefully selected of staff and volunteers to deliver aid. These volunteers will leave their families at a moment's notice to travel around the world to help families recovering after disaster. Our teams play a crucial role in getting our aid to families who need it the most, but they do so much more than that. They get to know communities and work with local people to understand what's needed and support families in making the most of the items provided. They think on their feet to solve logistical issues, and they work with local governments and partners to support as many people as possible. Once aid arrives in its country of destination, it is met by our Shelterbox response team for processing through customs and organizing onward transport to its final destination. Our teams do whatever it takes to get aid to families. Whether it's by boat, helicopter, tuk-tuk, or by foot, they will do whatever it takes to get aid to families. Rotary provides invaluable assistance during our responses. Our support from Rotary is often a key component of getting our aid on the ground. Rotarians are able to provide us with first-hand knowledge of many of the countries in which we respond, logistical and operational assistance, and as well vital links into community. Let's take a closer look at Rotary. We are project partners with Rotary International, a global community of 1.5 million neighbors, friends, and community leaders. Their aim is to create positive, lasting change in communities at home and all over the world. For almost 20 years, Rotary has supported our work in an incredible range of ways. Rotary clubs around the world have donated more than $93 million to Shelterbox. Over 1,000 Rotary members volunteer or work for Shelterbox. By working together with Rotary, we are able to collaborate and combine resources to ensure that we can support more communities in desperate need of shelter. Rotarians and Rotary groups across the world support us in a variety of ways, from raising funds to providing support on the ground during our response to disaster. Let's take a look at the partnership in action.
The Philippines gets affected by disasters every year. From typhoons to earthquakes, there's so many families that need our support. At Shelterbox, we're so proud to be Rotary International's project partner, further strengthening a global circle of friendship. As people of action, Rotarians make a difference for families who have lost everything in so many ways. Through raising awareness and funds at home to providing a valuable point of contact for response teams through first-hand knowledge, introductions, logistical assistance, and vital links into communities. The partnership connects Rotarians in their own community directly with disaster-affected communities around the world. We're growing, changing, and innovating to meet the needs of the increasing number of people devastated by disaster and conflict every year. One of our strongest innovations to date was to create Shelterbox Operations Philippines. This in-country agency is based on all of the principles of Shelterbox and allows us to respond quickly and effectively. Shelterbox and Rotary have worked together in all of our previous responses in the Philippines. Collaborating with Rotary to create Shelterbox Operations Philippines was a natural next step and has allowed us to be in a better position to respond to the next disaster.
We recently responded to Tropical Storm Erduha, or Kai Tak as it was internationally known, which was centered around Biliran Island, which is in Biliran province, which is in the sort of central Visayas in the Philippines. So Rotary has been key to the entire process of the creation of Shelterbox Operations Philippines. So even before the real inception of the agency, we were working with Rotarians throughout the country. They provide us with context about the situation and about how people deal with different disasters and scenarios in each of their areas. They give us a really very local context.
Immediately following Tropical Storm Kai Tak, our pre-existing network of Rotarians put us in contact with the local government, the Rotary Club of Biliran Island, and local Rotaractors. We worked together in partnership throughout each phase of the response, from assessing the need to ensuring each family received shelter and other life-saving tools. Shelterbox Operations Philippines is such an inspiring example of the difference that Shelterbox and Rotary can make when we work together and the partnership in action. Together, we are transforming despair into hope.
As you can tell, partners are so vital for everything we do, and we are grateful for partners like Rotary International and other partners that we have in the field. Working with partners helps us to go further, faster. It gives us the flexibility to work in different areas and reach even more families in need of shelter when disasters strike. It also enables us to share our expertise in shelter and learn skills from other organizations. To ensure we are reaching as many families as possible, we often work with many other leading international relief agencies in the field. We partner with other local organizations in conflict situations when it is not safe to deploy our international volunteers or when we need help with distribution. Some of the international partner agencies we work with are Hand in Hand for Syria, Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Our work doesn't stop once we have provided families with emergency shelter and essential aid items. We also offer comprehensive training to make sure families can make the best use of the items we provide. We use a train-the-trainer approach to empower communities to rebuild and maintain their homes long after our teams leave. It's not just about teaching people to construct shelters as quickly as possible. It's about making the most of the aid items so that families have the best possible chance of recovery. In 2019, Cyclone Idai hit southern Africa, washing away entire villages in Malawi. This was one of the worst weather-related disasters to ever hit this area. Having lost everything after Cyclone Idai, Stefano and Mary were determined to rebuild their livelihoods together with the rest of their community. Shelterbox responded to Stefano and Mary's village to provide families with shelter kits, water filters, solar lights, and mosquito nets. Several months later, we returned to understand what the recovery process had been like for families like Stefano's. Their story is one of recovery.
La sinte su komai. Ukomori ngari kuno. Madzi asanasefukire moyo unali bwino kwambiri. Kuka china chilichonse chimene tingapange chimapezeka. Sitimakhala ndi njala pakhopato. Tinali ndi chakudya chombiri chokwana. Tinali ndi zifuwo kubera ulimi, nkhani ya ulimi imayenda bwino. Tikasowa chinthu timatha kugulitsa ndi kupeza chimene tachisowa chicho. tikatha kuja ija timatha monga ife Amalawi timachezerana. Mwakhala mtengo ngati pano nyumba iyo ndiyo kumachezerana iyo. Mwakambitsana zina za ubale. Timapanga choncho moyo wathu.
Nthawi imene madzi ankasefukira, mvula inadzayamba kuchinyiza cham'ma past 5. Koma kodzaza mudzi wonse ndi nyumba zomwe kuyamba kumagwa anadzayamba cham'ma 11, ma 12, pomafika m'ma 3, ma 4 nyumba zonse mudzi zatha kugwa. Zifuwozo nkumangofa zingoberuka zikungopita, makatundu kumangopita.
Tinalibe kupulumutsana ngati amene sanalijerere dzikoli. Chifukwa timatenga mwina kutetezapo. Kwa tinakhala 24 hours tili madzi. Titachoka kuja kupita kuja, tinalibe kuganiza zatsogolo. Tinali ngati akufa. Ngati linali banja munthu ndi mkazi, mukasiyana wina nakakhala kwina. Ana zimakhudza kwambiri chifukwa zimakhala ngati kuti makolo awo anamwalira. Chifukwa ngati akugona kwawokha, ndiye kuti alibe chitetezo cha makolo. Kubwera kwa madzi kunaononga zinthu zingapo. Naona kuti atayembekezo.
Nzeru zoti abwere apite kumunda, mutu munalibe chifukwa amasaka malo oti tikhazikike tikhala pati. Koma zapa chigulugulu zinali zinthu zopanda ulemu. Koma chimene chinatimangitsa kuti patsa mphamvu kuti tidzapeze malo tikhale kuno ndi mapulasitiki munatipatsa malo nawo. Kunoko tafika kuno. Tabwera kunoko kusintha kwake kwa moyo kumene tinakuona nkukhala mumasuka. Musatithimizana ndi nzako kapena kukangana ndi nzako ayi.
Siyana ndi ukampuku sikunali bwino ayi. Panopa moyo umene tinawo uli bwino. Ndiye timadziwa kuti ndikabanja ndithu. Ziwiya za banja lonse ndiye kusonyeza kuti moyo. Pomwe ena tikuona tikulandira komano tigwirenso ntchito kuti tidzapeze yolowa. Chifukwa yake timagwira ntchito cholinga kuganiza za mtsogolo. Chimene chimandilimbikitsa ndikutsimikiza mtima. Chifukwa yake pakubwera ndi maganizo okagwira ntchito. Tikanakhala tinayi kwampuku sikanabwera maganizo kapaka napanda kapatudu amene bwezi tiko mweko. Ndini maganizo moti wiki amawa ndikhala ndikudzala chimanga, anyezi, tomato. Kuti zimenezo tomato ndi anyezi uchipukulisa zidzandithandizanso. Thandizira ndalama za nyumba ija ndithu. Timaphunzitsidwa kumakolo. Ndiye pamene timakula tikudziwa china chilichonse. Choncho apa panalibe vuto ina yonse kuti ndiyimike chimenechi. Koma ngati mmene palilimo yayi ndikhoma chiyembekezo. Lasintha siukhomayo. Ukhomo lingati kuno. Ife timathandizana. Timapanga chocho. Khomo ndi pa nyumba. Wakhala ndi nyumba ndiye pa khomo.
Pakali panopa kunoko kukacha. Mmodzi akumapita kumunda. Mmodzi akutsala pano. Ana akupita ku sukulu. wayamba kubwerera chifukwa kunoko tili kuntunda tsopano zikukhalanso mopanda nkhawa pakhomo ndithu popandanso kudzidzimuka.
Now that you are familiar with Shelterbox and how we work to ensure that no family is left without shelter, let's talk about how to take action. Volunteers are vital for everything that Shelterbox does, and we couldn't do it without you. Our volunteers play an instrumental role in raising funds and awareness across the country. As a Shelterbox Canada advocate, you support Shelterbox by sharing our recent news and updates from the field. We need volunteers who will help us raise awareness across various social media platforms. Advocates are very important for getting our message out so that we can reach the most people from coast to coast. In your role as an advocate, you will follow Shelterbox Canada on social media, share our social media posts on your own channels, get creative, make your own Shelterbox posts and creative content to engage with people on your own social media channels, and activate in times of disaster. When major disasters strike, families need our help more than ever. During this time, we need the support of our volunteers to share urgent and important updates about our current responses to raise awareness while the disaster is in the media spotlight. The first thing you can do as a volunteer is to follow Shelterbox Canada on our social media accounts. We use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and I've included all of our handles on the screen. A great way to also engage your networks with Shelterbox Canada is invite them to also like our pages. Sharing our posts on social media is another great way to engage your networks with Shelterbox. We're just going to quickly run through our social media accounts and how to share a post. This right here is Facebook. As you can see, this is a Facebook post on our Shelterbox Canada page. All you have to do is click share at the bottom of the post. Next is Twitter. On Twitter, you can either retweet or like a post, as shown by the icons at the bottom squared in red. On Instagram, you can share our posts to your stories. All you have to do is go to the post, click on the little paper arrow button, and then you can choose to add the post to your story, and then from here it will take you to add the post. You can also get creative, add some texts, add some hashtags, and then share this to your story and all your followers will see the post. And lastly is LinkedIn. LinkedIn also has an easy share button at the bottom of every post. As an advocate, you are expected to post at least once a month about Shelterbox. However, we always encourage our volunteers to post as much as they want. You'll receive monthly emails with templates for social media posts. Each month's posts will have a theme. You're able to copy and paste the template post directly to your own channels, or you can get creative and add your own flair to the post to make it your own. We love to see all the passion our volunteers show through their social media posts. Posts that have a personal touch will perform better with your networks as they can connect with you. If your followers can see your passion, they will be engaged more with your posts. Whenever you're posting, make sure to tag @Shelterbox Canada. We love to see what you're posting. Let's take a look at what some other volunteers have done to get creative with their social media posts. First, we have some Instagram posts that volunteers posted during some of our campaigns. As you can see, they've shared images from Shelterbox and then added some creative content to it. Just adding a few simple words means people are more engaged and can quickly read about what you are posting about. And also, as you can see, the volunteer used our brand colors and used the wonderful Shelterbox green. Here you can see some volunteers posted pictures of themselves wearing Shelterbox shirts or even in Shelterbox green. Posts like this are great to put on your personal channels as people can recognize you and then they're interested in what you're doing. Use this opportunity to explain who you are, your volunteer role, and why you're involved with Shelterbox. Some advocates have taken their activities offline to host Shelterbox Canada events in their community. Lydia hosted an event with a local cafe to raise awareness for Shelterbox. She invited members of her community to come out, enjoy a cup of coffee, chat, and learn about Shelterbox. The cafe even donated a hot drink to every person that came in to learn about Shelterbox. Hosting awareness events is a great way to talk about Shelterbox Canada to members of your community. This could be anything from setting up a booth at your university or school, having a chat about disaster relief over coffee, or even setting up a Shelterbox tent in your local park. There are so many opportunities if you would like to do events offline, and then you have great content to post about afterwards on social media. We can provide you with any promotional resources you may need to do this. If you decide that you're interested in also hosting awareness events, please just let Danny know. Social media is a useful tool for Shelterbox Canada to raise awareness about our work and connect with our supporters. You have the power to help us reach so many more people through social media, and we really value your support in helping us spread the word about Shelterbox Canada. Social media is a great tool, but it can easily blur the line between the personal and the professional. When you completed your onboarding documentation, you signed our social media policy. This policy is not meant to restrict individuals' use of personal social media. Instead, this policy provides guidelines for Shelterbox employees and volunteers who use personal social media channels. The social media policy is always available in the Advocate Handbook and on the volunteer portal. If you ever have any questions about this policy, please reach out to the volunteer program coordinator. Let's review some guidelines that are designed to provide helpful and practical advice for Shelterbox Canada volunteers to use social media responsibly. Assume anything you do or say on social media can be seen by anyone. The need for care applies at all times, regardless of your privacy settings. Although individuals are free to express themselves using personal accounts, this should be done in a manner which responsibly reflects Shelterbox Canada. Representatives of Shelterbox should be careful what content they post on social media. These sites can be searched by others. Assume that your colleagues, managers, and our supporters can see your content. Remember never to disclose non-public information, and be aware that taking public positions online that are counter to Shelterbox's interests might cause conflict. All postings, whether on official or personal accounts, must comply with all legal restrictions, including, but not limited to, copyright and discrimination. And most importantly, always remember to be passionate. Share your passion for volunteering with Shelterbox Canada and add value to your posts. We love to see your personality shine through your posts. By being passionate, you are able to connect more with your followers to engage them with Shelterbox Canada to help more families recover after disaster. Now let's take a look at the volunteer portal. This is where we include all the important information that volunteers need to do their role. You can access the portal by going to shelterboxcanada.org/portal. The portal is password protected, and you will receive the login information following this training video. Once you arrive to the portal, you will be brought to the home screen. The home screen includes links to all the important pages with resources for our volunteers. Let's take a look at the home page together. As you can see, we have resources that are available for our advocates. We'll come back to this one later. And then also we have different sections that take you to different areas of the portal. Now let's start with the key info section. In this section, you will find all the core information that you need and all the basics for volunteering. Things that can be found in this section include donation forms, our agreements and policies for volunteers, volunteer training and webinars, as well as other useful resources that you can use while volunteering. Now, if we go back to our home page, we can take a look at the next section, which is our deployment info section. Every week on Tuesdays, we update this section of the portal to include our most up-to-date information on our responses. So, as you can see, you're able to see what countries we are responding in, an overview of the response, and the current status of the Shelterbox response. I strongly recommend that all our volunteers check this area of the portal weekly so you know exactly where we're working. We also have various other resources that are used for our ambassador volunteers who do fundraising, such as our presentations and fundraising and youth resources section of the portal. An area that might be of interest to you is our promotional resources area. So in this section of the portal, we have access to all our promotional and communications resources. So that includes our branding and materials, access to videos about Shelterbox, our Shelterbox t-shirts, which if you choose, you're able to order your own t-shirt so that you can show off that you are a Shelterbox volunteer. We also have access to other posters and promotional resources available in this area of the portal. Now let's take a look at advocate resources. So this includes resources for everything you need to be successful in your volunteer role. So starting at the top, this is where you can find the monthly post. So there's always an example of an image to use, and as well the text copy that you can just directly and copy and paste into your post. As well, you can get inspiration from what other advocates are doing. So if you're ever stuck for a photo idea or not sure what to post, you can come and look in the inspiration section. We also have a photo gallery, so here you're able to come and pick your favorite photos that you like the best. Each photo is also captioned with the country, response, and the year it was taken, so you are able to provide context to each photos. These will be updated frequently, so you will always have access to the best photos. If ever you're in need of a particular photo, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help you with that. And lastly, we have our activity reports. Let's take a closer look at activity tracking. On a monthly basis, make sure to complete your activity reports to track your volunteer activity. Activity reports can be found on the volunteer portal. You are free to upload screenshots of your posts. We love to see what you've been doing. Sometimes a disaster will strike that results in a major humanitarian need and a media frenzy. At Shelterbox, these are often the times when we see a spike in our donations. While we know that on average only 1 in 5 families around the world receive the emergency shelter that they need, this isn't always known by the general public. When these major disasters happen, the public, community groups, and Rotary clubs become very receptive to supporting our work because the need becomes much more apparent. When major disasters happen, there is often high media coverage about the disaster. During these times, we rely heavily on our volunteers' support to raise awareness and funds following the disaster. Updates about the disaster and the Shelterbox response will be posted regularly to the volunteer portal, as well as you will receive emails about important updates. It is important to always read what information is internal only. Information in any communications marked internal only is for volunteer knowledge only and not to be shared outside the organization. Here are some examples of things that you can do as an advocate during a major disaster. Sharing our posts on social media across all channels. Sharing posts asking for donations with links to donation forms. Starting a Facebook fundraiser. Engaging your local media. Please contact our office before speaking to any media contacts, but usually during this time we will find media are interested more in posting stories about the Shelterbox response. You can also ask any local businesses in your area to put out donation boxes. An important thing to remember when engaging with people in your community about Shelterbox is that we are in need of donations all year round, not just in times of disaster. And that brings us to the end of the volunteer training video. Please now complete the training quiz that can be found at the bottom of this webpage, confirming that you have completed the training. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, We are more than happy to answer any of your questions to support you in your volunteer role. You can contact me at dannybristow@shelterboxcanada.org or at 647-352-1930. I work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern Time. Thank you so much for completing the volunteer training video. We are so excited to have you on board as an advocate, and we can't wait to see all the amazing things you do with Shelterbox.